You know, a guaranteed conversation starter for any wrestling fan at all is to ask, who's on your Mount Rushmore? It could be your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, anytime, any era, all time, or your Mount Rushmore of WCW, your Mount Rushmore of ECW, WWE, AEW, TNA, NWA, New Japan, Mexico. It doesn't matter. You get the idea. The top four of one company, era, or tag teams, whatever. It's always a fun conversation, and it's just a lot of fun to think about. Now, when you ask ECW fans for their Mount Rushmore, there are going to be probably quite a few who are guaranteed to be on almost everyone's lineup. Like, for example, Rob Van Dam, or Sabu, Tommy Dreamer, Taz, Terry Funk, Sandman, Raven, the Dudleys, Public Enemy, the Gangstas. Just picking only four is going to be a hard task no matter what. No matter what company, no matter what era, no matter what tag team. ECW, however, may be the hardest. But if there's one thing we can all agree on, someone who's on everybody's Mount Rushmore is going to be the Sandman. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because of Sandman's recent interviews that he did with Chris Van Vliet and Inside the Ropes, but Sandman's already a legend in his own right. He's a five-time ECW World Champion, one-time ECW Tag Team Champion. He's had a couple of titles over in Japan for good measure, and he just completely captivates audiences everywhere he goes before he even gets in the damn ring. I mean, he was and definitely still is just a tremendously magnetic personality. His natural charisma is off the fucking charts, and he steals the show every single time he shows up. So why is he not in the WWE Hall of Fame? I mean, of all the people who, so blatantly deserve it, he's got to be, towards the top of that list. He may not be number one on that list, but he's definitely top five. I mean, there are a few people who can say they were the face of ECW, but Sandman is definitely one of them. And he didn't even wrestle, which I can understand, throws off a lot of newer, younger fans, often having their little YouTube comments buried at the bottom of the comments because, they pointed out that he wasn't a good wrestler and therefore he doesn't deserve to be considered an all-time great. Now, they're not entirely full of crap. I mean, Sandman was an abysmally awful wrestler. Like, he sucked. Go watch his matches that he had with Don Morocco or I don't know, pretty much anybody before he started being a hardcore wrestler. And yeah, he did not have it. He was not a decent wrestler, like, in the slightest. But here's the thing. He did not need to be a good wrestler. All right? People just loved him regardless of that fact. I think it was Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman said it best when he said that nobody went to an ECW show to see the Sandman wrestle. Nobody. Not a soul. They want to see him beat the crap out of guys with kendo sticks. They want to see him make his entrance in the crowd and just hope that he passes you by. They came to sing his entrance song. I mean, you look at fans nowadays who sing Judas when Chris Jericho comes down to the ring, or Cody Rhodes, Edge, Randy Orton, but don't forget where that came from, all right? That originated in ECW with the Sandman. And that was just his draw. Seeing him, walk through the crowd, smoking cigarettes, pouring beer down his mouth. I mean, making himself bleed before the match even begins. I mean, people give Jon Moxley a lot of crap for, bleeding in like every single match, which, he doesn't, obviously. But these people have no idea what they're talking about. They do not know their history. Go back and watch pretty much any Sandman entrance ever, okay? And learn yourself some history. Sandman was just an absolute spectacle before he ever even got in the ring. Jon Moxley cannot say that. And I don't say that as a knock on him because I love Jon Moxley, okay? I'm just saying Sandman's entrance was his charm. And once he got in the ring, all he did was just hit you with a kendo stick. Sometimes a chair or just whatever else was, laying around, usually a kendo stick. And we ate it up because that was his thing. That was his charm. He didn't need to be Kurt Angle or Dean Malenko to, get people to like him. He didn't need to do that to get our attention. I mean, if you wanted technical wrestling, ECW still had that. Yes, ECW was far more than just brutal, hardcore, blood and guts bullshit, okay? They had technical experts like Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero. You had Lucha Libre guys like Rey Mysterio or Super Crazy. Every style of wrestling that you could possibly think of. It was a deceptively diverse landscape. So you had plenty of real wrestling, if that's exactly what you wanted. But when it came to raw action and violence, Sandman was one of your go-to guys. And he had some competition there as well. I mean, you look at guys like Sabu or New Jack, Balls Mahoney, but Sandman made himself stand out. And it wasn't even just, because of his hardcore bullshit either. I mean, go back and watch any of his entrances from ECW and just listen to that crowd. Just watch his entrance at ECW One Night Stand, or that one time he showed up on MLW Fusion, and his entrance was longer than his match. And we loved it. And that's another thing. I don't want to hear anybody bitching about how long his entrance was compared to his matches either, because, well, first off, Sandman wasn't even the first person to actually do that. Have you ever heard of a man named Gorgeous George? Gorgeous George was wrestling's first true mega heel, but his entrances were almost always longer than his matches. The only difference between Gorgeous George and Sandman is that Sandman's gimmick was basically the exact opposite of it. He just flipped it on his head, but it's the same general principle. Sandman more or less modernized Gorgeous George's entrance and just flipped it completely on his head, and we all loved it. And the beautiful thing about it is nobody else could have done what he did. I mean, sure, anybody could wrestle in a hardcore style, but nobody else had the charisma or the personality of Sandman. If it was somebody like Rhino or Just Incredible who did what Sandman did, nobody would have bought it. Nobody would have gave a shit. Not even someone like, Balls Mahoney or Axel Rotten. I mean, nobody could have gotten that entrance over like the Sandman. ECW was called the Land of Extreme, but it was so much more than that. I mean, it was a land of individuals, diverse characters, diverse wrestling styles, diverse everything. No matter what you were interested in, ECW had it. I mean, sure, the hardcore garbage wrestling bullshit may have overshadowed everything, and that's more or less what it's known for today, but it doesn't take away everything else that they had. Everybody had to stand out in one way or another. Some guys did it with, pure wrestling ability. Others did it with how violent and brutal they were. Others were just natural heels or natural baby faces. Sandman did it by just being the Sandman. There was never anybody like him before, and there will never be anybody like him again. I mean, he's influenced a lot of young wrestlers, and his influence still lives on today, but there will never be another Sandman. Nobody else had fans in the palm of their hands like Sandman did in the ECW days. And if he ever makes it into the WWE Hall of Fame, I really, really hope he gives us one last beer bash for old time's sake. I don't care how old he is. You know that he would do that with a smile on his damn face. Some of you may not agree with me, but you know what? That's what this channel is all about. And the next time I have something to say that you won't like, I'll see you then.